What's up, everyone? My name is Pi with srlounge.com, where we're here to give you shooter's education. This is by real photographers for real photographers. Now, today we have a very special interview guest. Well, we have two guests, actually. This is Jeff and Lori. They are the duo behind Indigo Silver Studio, and they're based out of Wilmington, North Carolina, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yep. So I met them actually at WPPI, and for those of you that missed WPPI, I kind of feel bad for you because it was not only the most fun I think I've ever had.
It was a good time.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And you got it. Okay, we're not going to do anything here, but let me just say that you got to get these two with a few drinks in them and just let them talk. It's absolutely fantastic. Okay, so that being aside, in this video we have 3 tips for pricing strategies for wedding photographers. And the whole kind of point behind this was we were at the bar talking, and we were kind of just talking about pricing strategies, and our strategies are so completely different.
Night and day.
So we're based out of, Lynn is based out of Los Angeles, and out here, our kind of whole thing is pricing for perceived value. We're around $8,000 to $10,000 for a partner photographer to start. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that when we finish a shoot, when we finish a package, we're generally not getting more than 10 to say 12. Whereas you guys are starting at a far lower, like under 3,000, right?
Yeah, 2,100.
But when you get them out of the process, we found that we're getting basically to the same point. You guys are getting to around $10,000 to $12,000 of revenue.
Absolutely.
And so they're 2 complete different approaches. And I thought I wanted to bring you guys on just so that you guys could tell them this different pricing strategy. Because in every locale, everywhere that you guys are, pricing is different. You can't. There's no silver bullet when it comes to pricing.
And we tried. We knew that if we put our prices higher, it would give us that perceived value. And we tried that, and just it fell on our face, because in our area, people if they see a price with a 3 and a comma in it, they're just going to keep going, because that in our area is 2 to 25 is a good number in our area to start at, but we tried starting at 3 and 4,000, and it just didn't work, and so we had to just kind of back up and go, wait a minute now, let's try something different, and let's try going away from packages and going into more of a la carte system, to where we let the client sell themselves up, and we don't have to do hard sales. And it's been working great.
Yeah, well, and your guys' work is fantastic, and it sells itself. But the crazy thing is that you still have to do these pricing strategies based on whatever area. So I want to start off with tip number 1, basically. What is tip number 1?
Okay, right.
So tip number 1 is to start simple. I think, there's, depending on the area, there's a difference between what the perceived value of photography is, whether or not people actually value it, and whether or not they want to invest a lot in it. And in our area, that value isn't really established. So we have to get them into the studio with a price that's enticing, and then upsell them from there. Okay. So we start simple. Our coverage starts at 6 hours, and a USB drive of the images, and then we add in some extra services that don't really cost us a whole lot. We host the images online, we have a gift registry, things like that. But that is all that they get in that starting price. And most people, they see that starting price and it's low enough for them to come in and say, okay, I can afford these guys. And then once they get in, they start moving up through other products and services.
Yeah. Okay. And even to take that to another level, we didn't want, for Lori and ourselves being partner photographers, we didn't want our prices to be much lower, our starting price to be much lower than 3,000.
Yeah.
But so we brought on an associate photographer, and his coverage starts at 2,100.
I see.
And we only offer 6, 8, and 10 hours, and so his coverage goes from 21 to 24 to 27, and then we pick up at 27 to 3,000 to 33. Mm-hmm. But there are some differences in the way we sell that, and so we have what we call our guaranteed set of services that all coverage comes with. And it's like Lori said, it's online hosting, it is the wedding registry, where we allow family and friends to go on our website, and it works just like a registry, so they can help the bride and groom add an album, add a wall portrait, add credit to their account with us. We also, what else is in there? A lifetime guarantee on any printed product they get with us, because we want to push printed products and not digital products.
I see.
But that is what comes with any coverage. And so to get them to see a different value that Lori and I have is any signature coverage also comes with a $200 engagement session credit. So they can use that to go toward an engagement session.
That's wonderful. On that point, with these credits, I'm sure they're going to feel like if they don't use them,
Exactly.
they're losing out on something. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And they're use it or lose it credits.
Use it or lose it.
It doesn't go against their balance if they don't use it. They don't
see.
get a $200 discount.
I see.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
The second thing they get if they come on board with us is an in-studio premiere. Our studio has a viewing room set up like a theater. So local clients can come in. We have cheese and crackers, wine, beer, champagne. We treat them very well when they come in. We have one of the best images from their wedding displayed on the screen. We dim the lights and put on a slideshow set to music. And Lori and I leave the room and we let them snuggle on the sofa and relive their wedding day by themselves instead of calling them up and going, hey guys, your images are online. Take a look at them. And now their friends and family are already seeing them because maybe they're at work or they're out of town or whatever. And now their friends and family are calling them and going, oh my God, your images are so good. And they haven't even seen them.
Yeah.
Or if they do see them, they're maybe on their phone or iPad or a poorly calibrated monitor at work. So the first time they see their images, we really want it to be an experience. So they get that in-studio premiere with us as well. And the third thing they get is timeline planning meeting, and I'll let Lori talk about that because I'm not allowed in that process. I am way too
Jeff will
ADD.
go off on tangents way too
We'll be
quickly.
talking about cars and everything else. And
Well, I
Lori's
love
like,
cars,
yeah,
so
yeah,
we
no,
should talk about cars.
I'm not allowed in a sales room, and I'm not allowed in a timeline planning meeting. I'm just not. I'm not.
Okay, so
yeah.
what is this timeline planning meeting?
So the timeline planning meeting is something, like Jeff said, that we offer to the clients that choose us over the associate photographer. And basically our goal is to help them plan their wedding day from start to finish, making sure that there's enough time for photography. So it started off actually as sort of a selfish practice because we wanted to make sure that we had time to get creative images and things like that. But really it's a great benefit for a lot of our clients. We found that even if our clients are working with a wedding planner, the wedding planner is going to plan out things basically from the guest experience side of things. What time the ceremony starts, what time guests are allowed into the room, what time dinner is served. They're not planning how long does the bride need to get into her gown and how long before the wedding does that need to happen in order for pictures and that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So it's sort of the behind the scenes timeline that we're helping them plan because we really are with them for most of the day, more so than any other vendor.
Yeah. And being in the South, a lot of our clients, they don't have wedding planners. And so we become their wedding planner because we are the ones with them all day.
For sure.
And if they do have a wedding planner, it's very traditional down there. We actually had a wedding planner try to talk one of our brides out of doing a first look that we had already sold her on.
Yeah.
She loved the idea.
Yeah.
And the planner was like, you shouldn't do that. And I called her and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm not going to call them and tell them not to do something that you've planned with them. Are you serious? Yeah. And so we like to take that. We get to that timeline planning meeting way early before, they have a chance to meet with their planner so they can go in with the rough draft of a timeline already done and say, we've met with Jeff and Lori and here's what we figured out.
That's something that we found really important too, to give them at least an idea of what we need on the photography side.
Exactly.
Right.
Before they go in and start just planning it. Because by 2 weeks before, nothing can really be changed at that point. If it's not in the timeline by 2 weeks
We
before.
do it 4 months prior.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so
Our goal is to actually have it done before they've had their invitations made. So
Yeah.
that way, if they decide they don't want to do a first look, for example, and they want to do all their pictures during the cocktail hour, but they want a longer cocktail hour, that has to be planned before the invitations go out because there's times written on there.
yeah, one thing that we like doing is in that initial meeting, I just hammer in 3 hours into their heads of the typical amount of time that I need with you, your family, and your wedding party is 3 hours. And I just keep saying 3 over and over and over.
Yeah.
Whether it comes before, whether it comes after, 3 over. So when they get to the coordinator side, they at least have that stuck in their head, 3 hours. Because the coordinator is going to go, oh, we've set up a 1 hour block for you to do your couples photos, your family formals, and everything like that.
Can all
And
be
you're
done
like,
in an hour.
oh man. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Now I wanted to talk about one other thing that you guys are doing. So you said 2,700 to 3,000 to 3,300. Those are your price points.
Price points. Mm-hmm.
So the differences between those, because you mentioned everything is a la carte. So the difference between those, is that just coverage differences?
It is coverage only. Yeah, because
6, 8, and 10 hours.
6, 8, and 10 hour differences. So beyond that, what do you think is the product that you want them to have the most? Like, what is that first kind of upsell that you're trying to aim for?
It's definitely the album.
Definitely an
for
album,
us.
yeah.
Okay.
So when they come in to meet with us, we have albums scattered all over the table, and we talk to them a lot about how digital is great. It is so good to have your digital negatives, as we call them, because we want to plant that idea of like, this is not a final product, it's your negatives.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they're great to have, and print your 5x7s and 8x10s to your heart's content.
Absolutely.
But this is not how you want to remember your wedding.
And I'm sorry. Go ahead. I think now we're kind of leading into step 2, which is those highly desirable products, such as your albums and things. And so, sorry to cut you off, but I wanted to make sure that
good
we
point, though.
So
we
tip
called
number
out
2.
step 2.
So
yes.
tip number two is to have a lot of highly desired items that they can buy a la carte. So traditional package pricing strategy says use your desired items for pull through, so that they can't get an album until they're in your top package or something like that. For us, we kind of turn that on its head and do it the other way around. Because they're only coming in the door with coverage and digital files, we want them to feel like they can add things at any time. So we encourage that, and we let them know, hey, anytime between now and the wedding, even after the wedding, you decide you want an album, come back to us and we'll work it out for you. So your question was, what's the first thing we like to sell them on? And that's definitely the album. But it could be, engagement sessions. That's where that engagement credit comes in.
That helps a lot.
I love
Engagement sessions also, they're really popular because we do a guest signature book made out of their images. So anything that our clients look at and say, wow, that's really cool, we let them know, hey, you can add that on. It's, only this much. Just let's go ahead and put it in your shopping cart. And they get excited about it, and sometimes they add it and sometimes they don't.
Okay, so that's fantastic. So the whole key of creating, I think, an a la carte system is basically creating those desirable products, right?
Right.
Where do you all feel like the a la carte system could potentially fail? Because I know a lot of photographers probably get them in the door at 21 or 25 or 3,000, and they can't get them to go and make those additional purchases.
You have to have your products structured, your sales process structured in a way that is desirable, and it benefits them to add different products. And I know a lot of photographers have heard this analogy before of Bath and Body Works, but you go into Bath and Body Works and you go in to buy one lotion, and that lotion's $8.99. And they have a special. It's always there, and it's buy 2 get 1 free. And so you're like, well, okay, I'm going to buy a second one, and so I get this one free. But then now you're at like $17 or $18, and it's like spend $20 or more and you get this free gift. And it just keeps going. And so you go in to buy one $8 bottle of lotion, and next thing you know, you walk out, you spent $30. That's kind of our approach with it, especially with albums, because the way our albums are priced is 30 pages. And we tell them that's the smallest you can get, because that's the smallest our bookbinder can bind into a book.
And before you get too far into that, we are doing a separate segment on album sales.
Okay. All right. So we are, yes. So we want to create that sales process, so it kind of all builds up in there, and where they're constantly getting, even with wall portraits and any of our products, it kind of builds on it. So the more they buy, the more they save.
Yeah, and I think one of the key points that you mentioned was Bath and Body Works. Their pricing is so strategic, and it's so well thought out that the next price point is very near to where they're already spending. Because I think if your next price point is, if you're going like $2,000, oh, well, if you jump to $3,000, then you get this. You've gone too far. The next jump is so far that they go, oh, well, that's not just a couple $100 more. That's actually a significant amount. So maybe I'll just make that decision later on, right? Where they try and make each step a very small incremental value that feels like, oh, it's only another $2, another $5, another so forth.
And our first step comes with when they come in. And since we've added on our associate coverage, which is new for 2015, we've seen a lot of clients call in and say, well, I have about a $2,500 budget. And we're like, great, you're a perfect client for Chris. Come in, let's meet, let's talk about, what you need on your wedding day, and we'll see how it goes. And so when they come in and they see that they're, $2,100 for Chris for 6 hours, and by the time they go, we talk to them roughly and get them to the 8-hour mark at $2,400, but they're looking at our 8-hour mark at $3,000, and they get the $200 engagement session credit, and they get the timeline planning meeting, and they get the in-studio premiere.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it's only $600 more? Okay, well, I'm going to go with Jeff and Lori because I want them. And so for $600 more, now we've already taken that client that's come in with initially a $2,100 budget. They upsold themselves to 8 hours, and then they looked at our packaging and the way not packaging, but our pricing. And now they've already upsold themselves to $3,000.
Sure.
So from there, once they buy an album or an engagement session, they're not going to use it, or that $200 is use it or lose it.
Yeah.
And so our engagement session packages are set up the same way. So now they add an engagement session, $200, but they go, well, it's only $400 more to go to this one, and now they're at $3,400. They came in with a $2,100 budget and are spending $3,400, and by the time they add an album, they're over $5,000. And so it just works really well, and we don't have to do hard sales. We simply just go,
present
how
it
we're gonna
and
do
let
it.
them.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. I feel like you guys have so much knowledge on this. Is absolutely incredible. And you guys are actually teaching too at Shutterfest, right?
Yes.
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 Now at Shutterfest, are you guys doing photography side or more the business side?
Photography, 100%. We're teaching 3 classes. Photography side. We're doing one that's
All 3 are hands-on
hands-on.
classes.
Yeah.
Okay. And we'll provide all the links too on that so that
Okay.
they can all find you
Yep.
guys at Shutterfest and everything. We have one other point that I wanted to get to, like our tip number 3.
Mm-hmm.
Before we do that, I wanted to say one thing, which is that I don't really understand why photographers are so scared oftentimes of just asking or telling
Absolutely.
and saying, would you be interested, and presenting to their, like,
Right.
I think as photographers, especially as artists, when we get into this into the industry, people have a very hard time
Mm-hmm.
pushing things, or not even pushing, it's just even offering
There's
something.
a fear of rejection
Yeah.
because if you ask them if they want it, they can say no, and that can be very scary when it's your art and your,
Yeah.
you put all you have into it. So.
Yeah, you have the fear of rejection. You have the artists that feel like, well, I don't want to be a salesperson and rip them off, or I don't want to do this and feel like I'm doing this and
Yeah.
betraying my. But the thing is that anywhere you go, you could go to freaking Burger King, and they're going to ask you if you want to upsize your meal.
Absolutely.
Right.
And if you say no, I would not like to upsize my meal, they're not going to get upset. The client, I've never gotten upset as when I went and when I've been offered things, I've never gotten upset by someone
Yeah,
just offering
absolutely.
it. I've gotten upset with someone pushing it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, why aren't you going to do this? Why aren't you going to do this now? If you don't do this now, then you're going to be. But if I
Yeah.
say, this is a fantastic product, you guys have
Mm-hmm.
these options, would you guys like to purchase? Nobody is going to get angry
Yeah.
about that.
No one.
And that actually dovetails really well into tip number 3.
Okay.
So I'll go ahead and mention tip number 3 is show what you want to sell.
Mm.
So if you want them to buy albums, you put albums out on the table. If you want them to buy wall portraits, you need wall portraits up on your wall. So earlier you had asked, where can this fall apart? What are ways that this can't work? I think being able to do in-person sales is really important to this process because if you do everything through email and online, they don't have a chance to see the albums and see the wall portraits and decide they want one.
Absolutely.
Kind of going along with that is our business is very high touch. So they come in for the initial consultation. Then when they do their engagement session, they come in again for a consultation where we plan out their engagement session. They come in for in-person sales after their engagement session. They come in for the timeline planning meeting at 4 months. They come in for a final timeline run through right
Yeah.
before the wedding. They come in after the wedding to see their images for the first time. So we have designed a very high touch business where they are constantly coming in. And every time they come in, they're seeing the albums, they're seeing the wall portraits.
We're suggesting to them, like, hey, even during the engagement session, we'll get an amazing image, and I'll be like, look at this image. This would be amazing, in
Yeah.
like a large print over your fireplace or behind your sofa. And we're doing those little subliminal, little touch points along the way of,
Absolutely.
or this would be a great 2-page pano in your guest signature book or something like that. And that's how we continually drop those little hints along the way, and eventually they're like, yeah, I do need that.
Yeah.
I do want that.
I love that. And along with that, I think I read a book saying that, typically a typical consumer needs 5 to 7 touches basically before they're going to make a purchase. It means like whether it's a burger or whether it's a car,
Yeah.
we need to be reminded 5 to 7 times that this is available before it sticks in our head.
Absolutely.
So that's absolutely fantastic. And one of the things that you mentioned too was basically in the layout of your gallery. And I thought that was a huge tip. But you design the gallery area, and we're going to talk more about basically your studio and kind of having a co-op studio and so forth in a little bit. But in another segment. So you guys will have to go into that other segment. To
So
watch.
come back.
So come back for that. But just briefly, that you guys design your studio space to mirror that of a home.
Yeah.
Why do you guys do that?
Well, I'll talk about our first studio space first because I designed that one before Lori moved over and put a woman's touch in it. So, because I'm a guy, what do guys, we wear black, we wear gray, there's no color, there's no feminine, it's all big, bigger's better, and that's not always the case, So when I designed our
His first studio was painted black and red.
it was
Black
bad.
and red.
Oh, it was bad.
That's not
It was
very
bad.
inviting.
I'm not even an
That
NC
is a
Sta-
car guy color, though.
I'm not even an NC State fan, and it's black and red. But sorry,
He thought
State
it was
fans.
masculine
yeah.
and, like strong and
It was
powerful.
hideous. Don't do it.
Doesn't
and,
appeal to brides.
And do not. And if your studio's black and red, I'm sorry. It's mine was a different shade of red, and it was not pretty. So don't please, if your studio colors are black and red, don't be offended. Mine was bad. But I designed my first studio, and It was amazing. It was right on Front Street in Wilmington. It was a gallery space. You walk in, there were 12 framed 30 by 40s in a gallery, and each one of them were spot lit. And when you walk in, it was very pretty if you're an artist and you're looking to buy art, landscape. But if you're a portrait client, that's a little overwhelming because they're like, I can't decorate my house like this. And so it did not lend to the sales process. And so when Lori moved over and we actually opened Indigo Silver and we created our newer studio that we're in now,
We said, no. The red's going away.
Yeah.
The black is going away.
So she brought a woman's touch to it, which is always
That's really important.
It's very important because all of our clients are women.
Yeah.
You know, and so
They're
it has
making
to-
the decisions
Yeah, it has
on-
to be. So
Right.
For the most part.
So I'll let her tell you about how our new studio is laid out.
Well, the goal with our new studio, we actually moved into a different space, and so the space that we have is more conducive to this as well. But we have a great entryway lobby where it's pretty much set up like a living room. We have on one wall there's a fireplace mantle, on the other wall there's a hall table, and in the middle there's like a living room set up with like a couch and 2 chairs and a coffee table, chandelier hanging above it. So it's a very high-end looking, and it's kind of artsy. It's not entirely what you'd put in your home, but it's suggestive of a
Sure.
home. And our goal was to, the way that we sell portraits is we suggest that portraits go over furniture. It gives the portrait, a place to be,
Yeah,
really.
it will
And our
anchor.
clients can wrap their minds around that.
Yeah.
And so we show that in our studio. So above the fireplace mantle, there's a framed 30 by 40. Above the hall table, there's a framed and matted
24 by 30, 20 by 24.
something big.
Yeah.
Something big.
But it's
And-
matted,
And
double
then
matted.
in the living room space where the sofa and the chairs are, in between that, there's a gallery wrap canvas collage on the wall.
Yeah.
And that collage is all from the same wedding, so that they see it as one
see.
unit instead of looking at each different image and
Absolutely.
trying to kind of pick it apart.
No, I love it. It makes me want to go and redesign our gallery. But I love the whole concept of presenting in a way that helps them to visualize
Yes.
what this could be in my home as opposed to like guessing.
Yeah.
Because basically like the problem with like selling really any one of the products, prints, canvases, anything, is that there's so much like, oh, just imagine how this would look, or just imagine this. And that's difficult for somebody to do. It's really difficult to perceive or to visualize what that's going to look like in
Yeah.
a home that's completely different color and design
Right.
and so forth. So I love that you guys have a presentation in that. Yeah, like I said,
And
it
there
makes
are
me want to
some-
go redo our gallery.
And there are some sales software that will allow you to have your clients send in a photograph of their home,
Yeah.
and then you can show in there. We are just getting into doing that.
Yeah.
So I can't give you definitive numbers of how much money it's made us.
Yeah.
But
But that's,
I'm
that's
looking
also
forward to
something
it.
that's
Yeah.
happening during the
During
sale.
the sale and not subliminally.
We want to start that sales process as soon as they walk in the door. We want them to
Absolutely.
see art goes over furniture. There are no 8x10s in here. Everything is large wall art. We want to start that process. from
There's
the moment
nothing
they come in
smaller
the
than
door.
16 by 20 anywhere in our studio.
Yeah.
If it is, it's double matted and framed up to
So it
something
looks-
very large.
yeah, it
And
looks
hung
large.
with other prints that are around it, so it's not just one lonely print on the wall.
Got it. Well, that's fantastic. It's been amazing, and I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad you guys
Thank
have come
you.
down for at
Absolutely.
least. Well, this is segment 1, so we have
Yes.
2 more pieces of this that you guys are gonna give more tips. And again, they're going to be at Shutterfest. This is Sal Cincotta's Shutterfest. They have 2,000 photographers that are going to film or to shoot 200
Yes.
models, right?
Very,
200
it's
different
very
models.
hands-on. It's a lot of hands-on shooting, and that's what Lori and I are doing. We're doing 3 classes for hands-on lighting, posing, finding the right location, and we'll talk a little bit about how we shoot to sell as well in
Yeah.
there, because you have to know what you're selling, so
Creating
you know
a
what to
marketable
shoot.
product,
Yeah,
yeah.
to create a good product. So
That's fantastic. So be sure to check that out. We'll include links for that as well as links to their website. And you all will have to stay tuned for episodes 2 and 3.